All right. Shalom. Before I get started with this lesson, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Hakwadash. Double honors to my elder apostles, to my elder bishops, and to my elder teachers of Great Millstone that rule well, which taught me this truth, who are the true leaders of Israel today. And also peace, love, blessings, salutations to the elect. All right, Shalom. And ultimately in this lesson, I just want to touch on the end of Esau Edom and his rulership, man. Ultimately, this is the period of time that we're in right now. Okay, right now you have Esau Edom, the so-called white man, who's in power, which that power was given unto him through Isaac. Ultimately going into his blessing, but this devil is at the end of his blessing. Okay, and right now you see Nero 47 and and his crew, right, his little minions, which ultimately is the elites that are giving him orders, right? Because that's a misconception. Majority of the people of the world, especially these Americans or these Babylonians, they actually think that Nero 47, Donald Trump, they actually think that he's the one that's calling the shots. A lot of our people, a lot of Jake, they talk shit about Trump and so on and so forth, because they actually think that he's the one that's calling the shots and he's the one that's in power. But he's doing ultimately he's doing the bidding of the small hat, right? Ultimately, he's being controlled by a shadow government. Ultimately, the ones that are in power who are ultimately behind the scenes. Okay, but in the grand scheme of things, it's ultimately Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai that's controlling these devils, man. Right, like it says in Daniel 4:17. I'll grab that real quick. Daniel chapter 4, verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and set up over it the basis of all men, or the basis of men. And ultimately, the basis of men are the Edomites, okay, because they're the lowest of the low, okay? And that's why, the world is in such chaos and turmoil, because you have the wicked that's ruling, okay? But the good thing, the good news, I should say, is that this devil is at the end of his rulership, okay? And, it's a lot of enchantments going on. These devils is acting like they're going to the moon and so on and so forth. It's a lot of sorcery, witchcraft. Like when you read Ephesians, the 6th chapter, 6 and 12, it goes into spiritual darkness in high places. As a matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Okay, so they're setting up a lot of enchantments and so on and so forth, because ultimately what's going on is two sacrifices is being offered up. Okay, you have the righteous sacrifice that's being offered up via the prophets. That's why when you read Romans, the 12th chapter, 12 and 1, it goes into making our bodies a living sacrifice. Okay, and ultimately when we go out to the highways and byways, that's pretty much, a spiritual altar. We're offering up ourselves unto the Lord. And because ultimately we know that anything can happen when we go out there. So we're making our bodies a living sacrifice. Plus, we're not hiding. We're not, hiding behind masks or covering our faces. Ultimately, these elites, they know who we are. They're following us and tracking our every move. We know that. Okay, so we're making ourselves a prey. We're making ourselves literally a sacrifice, man. Okay, so you have the righteous that's offering up a sacrifice, and then you have the wicked that's offering up their sacrifice. Just like going back into the account of Cain and Abel, right? What's that in Genesis, the 4th chapter, right? Let's start at verse 3. We'll just start from the top, right? And I'm just read through it kind of quick. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord Yahweh. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord Yahweh. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of that fat thereof. And the Lord Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offering, because Abel offered up a sacrifice the correct way. See, Esau, and this is the mindset of Esau now, he's always trying to do things his way, okay? As the scripture says, obedience is better than sacrifice, man. See, Abel was obedient according to how you're supposed to sacrifice and offer it up to the Lord. But Cain, Esau, the wicked one, he was disobedient, man. And that's why it said that the Lord had respect unto Abel's sacrifice. And let's keep reading, right? It says, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So he got pissed off, right? Just like when you fast forward to right now, the righteous sacrifice is being offered up by the hopeful elect, the prophets, and a wicked sacrifice is being offered up by Esau, Edom. That's why they're heavy into the witchcraft and worshiping these satanic deities and so on and so forth. The whole left-hand priesthood, man. A bunch of sacrifices, man. America is nothing but a Babylonian church, man. That's why you see all of these celebrities. They always throw up the same hand signals and so on and so forth. And, ultimately, they're sacrificing into these wicked satanic deities, man. And, these devils, they're trying to usher in a New World Order under Satan, right? But the real New World Order that's being ushered in is the New World Order of righteousness under Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. You see? Let's keep reading. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? But guess what? Esau can't do well. It's not written in his DNA, right? He's the ultimate can't get right, man. Okay? So, and the Lord already had a design from the beginning. Okay? That's why he's that wicked root. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. So Cain, with his jealous, hating ass, took out Abel, right? Ultimately, he was trying to cut off that righteous line. And that's what these devils are trying to do today, right? So that's why that persecution is coming against the true believers, the prophets. These devils, they try to take down our channels, our videos, and ultimately, they're trying to, smear us, a smear campaign, and try to make us look bad on their media. Right now, they have these certain plants on YouTube, like Vocab Malone and these other Edomites and Jake as well, trying to, belittle this truth and they call it hate speech and so on and so forth, which really is true speech, right? We're just speaking the truth, but ultimately, they're going to physically come against us and try to cut us off, just like Cain did Abel, okay? Because of the blessing that we have, man. That's ultimately what it's all about. But guess what? Just like how the Lord accepted Abel's sacrifice and rejected Cain's sacrifice, he's about to accept our sacrifice, the true believers, the hopeful elect, the prophets. And he's getting ready to reject Esau and his wicked sacrifice, man. Okay? Um, that was the point that I wanted to make. Um, which the whole chapter is good, but that's the point that I wanted to make on that. So let's go to real quick. I want to go back to Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, right? Because ultimately the vision is speaking. A part of that vision is the end of Esau, Edom's rulership. There was another scripture that I wanted to get, but okay, y'all was in Ephesians. Okay, I knew I was somewhere else, but you know what? I'm done with that. So let's go here. Habakkuk 2 and 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. At the end of what? At the end of Esau, Edom's rulership. And the vision, the prophecies are speaking loud and clear. So this devil is done, man. No matter how much, sacrificing they're doing and their rituals and whatever they think that they're doing, ultimately it's not going to prevail, man. Okay, this is the end of this devil's rulership. But at the end it shall speak and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And that's for the ones who believe, right? The ones who believe, we understand that these prophecies are going to hit very soon. Because you have a lot of non-believers out there that don't believe that these prophecies are going to come to pass. They're just going to be, caught off guard when it actually happens, right? And I'm kind of referencing to this video that the elder Apostle Gabar he did a response to the elder. I believe the elder's name is Karata Zaba of Baltimore, the head elder of the Baltimore camp, if I'm not mistaken. Elder Apostle Gabar was making a response video to the other elders' video, where you had these Edomites who was trying to discredit, Apostle Tahar and Great Millstone, trying to say that we're false prophets and so on and so forth because of the whole year 2000 thing or whatever. And, Apostle Gabar was cutting them, going into how we're supposed to ultimately hasten the coming of the Lord, man. At the end of the day, hey, look, if y'all want to call us false prophets or whatever, hey, go right ahead. We ultimately don't give a fuck, man. Because we know that what we have regarding this truth, we know that it's the real deal. We know that this is the truth of the Lord, man. And we know who the Lord is ultimately dealing with, right? So at the end of the day, people, they try to say whatever they want to say, but what they got to say now? Everything that we're talking about is happening right now in real time. But see, a lot of these Edomites and these heathen, even the 2/3, they suffer. A lot of these Christians, they suffer from a term called cognitive dissonance, man. Even though you lay the truth out and facts right in front of their eyes, they act like they can't see it, man. But it's all good. So at the end of the day, these prophecies, they ain't tarrying no more, man. They're hitting spot on, just like during the time of Egypt. Okay, during that first great deliverance, we're in the time to where the Lord is getting ready to bring that second great deliverance, man. Right? So ultimately, this is the end of Esau, Edom, man. All right. Now let's go from there. And let's go to Amos 1 and verse 11. Right? Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. Yeah, man, going all the way back to Cain and Abel, really going back to the serpent in the garden, right? This devil has always been envious of us, man, right? I forget what precept that is that I wanted to bring out real quick, proving that this devil has always been envious of us, man, because ultimately we were accepted and his red bitch ass was rejected, man. Right? Second Esdras. No, Salakia. Wisdom of Solomon 2. And 24. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world. Going all the way back to the garden, man, the serpent. When Eve was beguiled by the serpent, that wicked, that serpent knew exactly what he was doing. And that serpent it's not talking about an actual snake, right? Like these Christians believe. It was a heathen with that wicked Edomite spirit, man. Okay, ultimately that's what it's going into. Now, of course he went to Eve because, the woman is the weaker vessel, right? So she was beguiled, by the serpent. But ultimately, that was through the envy of the wicked, man, because of the glory that the Lord has promised us, going into us being accepted, adopted by the Lord to be His people. Okay, until this day, these devils are still envious, man, right? Trying to get their birthright back, which ultimately the birthright and the blessings was never for him, man. Okay, the way that the Lord set it up, that's the way the Lord set it up, has set it up. But the Lord never accepted this devil. This devil was never going to get any blessing of the birthright, man. Okay. So let's read that again. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, right? Because ultimately that's how we fell, right? Started following the ways of the heathen, okay? And that's how we fell. Then you go into the sons of God, they started getting with heathen women, and which, you can do that. We can have concubines, but they started following their, their false idols, man, and ideology, okay? And that's where they went off, and that's how we fell. So now we're in a time to where the Lord is restoring us, man. Okay, and it's nothing that these devils can do about it. They can have all of their podcasts and, try to downplay this truth as much as they can. It doesn't matter. They're kicking against the pricks. They're trying to ultimately deny the inevitable, man. It was always written that the Lord was going to restore us and ultimately put us in our rightful spots as being in power, ruling the world in righteousness, man. Okay. So let's go from here and let's go back. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I would not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever and ever. Okay, so now that payback is coming to where we're not going to show this devil any mercy. Once we get these devils in chains, we ain't going to show them absolute no mercy at all, man. Okay. But I will send a fire upon Teman, which shall devour the palaces of Basra. Teman, ultimately being the Germans. And Basra, ultimately, man, a lot of them small has their Germans, their Temanites, because Amalek, that's pretty much the, the tribe of Edom, as for lack of a better term. They're the ones who actually benefited from the blessing of Genesis, the 27th chapter, But every one of these Edomites is getting ready to go into captivity under us, man, the Israelites. And we're not going to show them any mercy. And when it says, shall devour the palaces of Basra, that's just talking about any Edomite dwelling place. So Basra, you can take that out and put America right there, man, because this is ultimately their headquarters of wickedness, man, and the Lord is getting ready to destroy Babylon the Great, America, with 200 million nuclear warheads, man. So that's why we're seeing World War III brewing up, and all of these prophecies getting ready to come to pass. These devils, they're about to ultimately usher in the MOTB. That's really what this, the whole Strait of Hormuz shutting down, and really, these devils is getting ready to collapse the dollar, man, and usher in the MOTB. So we're right here at the end, man. The devil is done. He's finished. This is the end of his rulership, and this is a beautiful thing. Of course, I'm going to end out on one of my favorite scriptures that I love to get, 2nd Ezra 6:9. For Esau is the end of the world, end of an age, eon, period of time. That's what the word world means right there. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So at the end of the day, Esau is about to fall, And we're on the rise, man. And we're going to rule forever and ever, right? A world without end. Okay. Matter of fact, let me end off on that. Isaiah 45 and 7 and 17. Isaiah 45 and 17. But Israel, all 12 tribes, shall be saved in the Lord Yahweh with an everlasting salvation, beginning with the top governing body, the 144,000 in the Lord's multitude, that's set up for salvation. And eventually the 2/3 will come back through the loins of the elect, and we all will enjoy the kingdom and be in power forever. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed, nor confounded, world without end. So our rulership is going to be ongoing, continual, right? We're going to rule forever and ever, right? Because the Lord is going to establish his new covenant with us when he puts his laws, statutes, and commandments into our inward parts, into our spirits, and we're not going to sin anymore, right? And ultimately, we're going to get the victory over death, which is going to make us immortal, and we're going to rule forever, you know? But, there's a lot more precepts I can get. But, I feel like the point was made. This is the end of Esau Edom's rulership, man. So, hey, all we got to do is endure into the end. And, Lord willing, we make it on the fathership, man, the chariot, Call Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, the water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai for allowing me to make this lesson. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. And until next time, Shalom.